Recently, I've been doing a lot of testing in Minecraft worlds and just playing in general, and I've always wondered, what is the best food to use? I'm sure if you were just to go by stats, you guys would probably just say like golden carrots or golden apples, but that's not really how people play Minecraft. Sure, if I was in creative mode, I'd probably cheat in a stack or two of golden carrots, which would probably last my entire 2-week phase, but what about in survival? It's not like day 1 golden carrots are available. So I decided to think about it some more. Then I got really tired and I took a nap. Then I ate a really delicious ham sandwich. And then I decided to try and figure out what would be the mostest, bestest, greatest food in all of Minecraft history. But how does food and hunger in Minecraft even work? I'm still confused about how my thermostat works. I don't even have any time to think about which foods do what and what I should be eating. I just eat everything, to be honest. I'm like a whirlpool at times. Let me just put on my reading glasses so that I can look the part while I explain to you the many facets and complexities of food and food-related items. I've never seen you wear glasses before. I think you're just wearing them because you're trying to look cool for the people watching. So your hunger is represented by this little bar here, above the hot bar and to the right. It's got 10 chicken legs. They look so delicious. Each chicken leg actually represents 2 points, which means it's possible to have half a chicken leg on this bar. Remember this detail, as it will be super important later, I promise. So that's the hunger bar. But then there's another bar that the game accounts for, but you can't see. It's called the saturation bar. So basically just think of there being an identical hunger bar that exists right here, but you can't see it. So each food item will help to refill some of your hunger points and also some of your saturation points. As you do things in the game like running, swimming, mining, jumping, your hunger will go down, but it first starts to deduct points from your saturation bar, and then once that is fully depleted, then it will start taking away points from your main hunger bar. The more saturation you have, the longer it will take for it to start taking away points from your hunger bar. The hunger bar is much more important to the actual game mechanics though, as this is mainly the way that you heal if you've taken damage. You can do that by making sure that you eat enough food to fill up at least 9 chicken legs, or 18 points. If it goes below that, you won't be able to heal, so you just keep stuffing things down your gullet until you see that all 10 hearts are full again. Also, if your hunger goes down to the 3 chicken legs, or 6 points, you won't be able to sprint or swim fast. And of course, if your chicken legs are all gone, then you will starve, which basically just means you'll slowly lose hearts until you... Thought I was going to say die, but you actually don't die. You just remain on half a heart. But that's only in normal mode. In hard mode, you do actually starve to death, so watch out. Weirdly enough, I just learned today that on easy mode, you actually can't starve lower than half your health. That's kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Now that we know about hunger and saturation, let's move on to the different types of food. Which one of the ways we'll be judging them is based upon them having a good hunger saturation ratio. Basically, most foods won't allow you to continue eating them if your hunger bar is full, which is why both points are so important. Because if you have a food that brings your hunger to full and brings your saturation full, then your hunger bar won't start depleting until your saturation bar completely does. So you'll have to eat less often and get to play more. But if the opposite is true, then you're going to have to be constantly eating every time because you've barely filled up the saturation bar, so it depletes really quickly. Also, another fun fact, this little graph here tells me that only 1.5% of the people who watch my vids are also subbed to my channel, so make sure to hit that like button. Let's give that algorithm the dinner it deserves, like Brussels sprouts. Ew. Plus, you should subscribe, because if you are, then when you leave a comment below, I'll give each and every one of you some free digital ice cream. So by now you're probably thinking, or so what, even if we judge all the food by their hunger and saturation points, nothing actually changes. And that's where you're, well, kind of right. See, there's actually other methods that I'll be using to judge each food. You're noticing the footage that's in the background. That's actually me playing a few worlds. In each of them, I'm just eating one food source, just to see how it feels. In fact, that's one of the methods that I'm judging them by as well. Along with a few other ones like, does it stack? Does it need to be placed to eat? Does it need to be grown? Does it need to be cooked? Does it need inedible items to be crafted? What biome does it spawn in? Or what dimension does it spawn in? What do you guys think? What is the food that you usually try your best to get as much of? I know we all can't have gold farms to feed our never-ending addiction to those shiny morsels. So which foods are your go-to, starting from the early game to the late game? Another thing to think about is, when do people usually eat in the game? Like, how far do they let their hunger drop before they start chowing down? Most people are probably not waiting until their hunger drops all the way down to 3 chicken legs, because they know if they do that, then they won't be able to run in case they need to. And also, people aren't going to be eating the very exact moment that they drop even a single chicken leg. So for me, I usually eat by the time I've lost about 4 or 5 chicken legs, because at that point, in my opinion, it seems like enough of my hunger is gone to justify eating something. Maybe having the time to eat at least like 2 items, like 2 pieces of bread or 2 pieces of steak, so that with each item I've consumed, I also get a decent amount of saturation points to hold me over until the next time that I get hungry. I'll probably stop using the word chicken legs and just say legs from now on. I'm gonna put all the food into 6 different categories, and I will provide some explanations as to why I put them there. It's a hard task because a lot of this is just based on my own opinion, but I am trying my best to take into account every type of player's perspectives, to be as fair as possible. First tier is what I call the toxic tier, which from a letter standpoint is the double F tier. Looking at the 2 best items here, they aren't really that toxic. Raw chicken has a 30% chance to give you hunger debuff for 30 seconds, and rotten flesh has an 80% chance to give you hunger for 30 seconds. So they're not the worst food, but if you get the hunger debuff, it kind of goes against the whole point of eating, because then you'll lose that hunger anyways. Then the other 3 items are the real toxic ones of the bunch. They all give you poison. The poisonous potato has a 60% chance to poison you for 5 seconds, while the spider eye has a 100% chance to give you poison for 5 seconds. However, the worst one, the pufferfish, just destroys you. It gives you hunger 3 and nausea for 15 seconds, and it gives you poison 2 for 60 seconds. My gosh, why would they even allow this to be edible? Why would anybody be stupid enough to eat this? The next tier is the F tier, but I just call this one the raw tier, as it has all the rest of the raw fish and raw meats. Most of these items are here because they don't really have that great stats, and you can cook them to make them have better stats. The rest of the raw foods are displayed from better stats to worse stats, and the item that has the lowest stats in the entire game, that also won't give you any debuffs, is the tropical fish, which gives you 1 point of hunger, or half a leg, and 0.2 points of saturation. Imagine this, you're starving, and you open the chest to find 20 tropical fish. You gobble them all down. How many points of saturation do you have? 4. Just 4. That's right. Bringing you from 0 to 10 legs, or 0 to 20 hunger points, would only grab you 4 points in saturation, or 2 legs. This is a lesson for you all. Don't eat them. Please stop eating clownfish. We're not even that tasty. It's not worth it. Please stop hunting us. Oh gosh. Is that an axolotl? No, 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 no. Run! Run! Now we're finally in D tier, or basically what I would call the unstackable tier. All the food in this tier are not able to be stacked at all, so you can only carry one of them in each slot, which is really stupid, and I have no idea why this is still in the game. The worst one in this tier, even though it's a food item that has pretty decent stats, is cake. With each slice giving you 1 leg or 2 points and 0.4 saturation, a whole cake gives you 7 slices, totaling 7 legs, 14 points, and 2.8 saturation. But you have to place it down on the ground to eat it. Plus it takes a lot of resources, so it's quite tedious to craft. And speaking of taking a lot of resources to craft, we have rabbit stew, which takes less resources to craft than cake, but still some of the resources have to be cooked before you can craft it. Stats wise, rabbit stew actually has a much better hunger saturation ratio than golden carrots does. It gives 5 legs or 10 points and 12 points into saturation. Now here's where the half of the chicken leg is important. If we use the rabbit stew as an example, since all the foods give back hunger points in whole numbers, you can really maximize the efficiency of eating the food if you decide to wait until your hunger points are a decimal. Like if I was down 5 legs of hunger, I could eat a rabbit stew, but then I'd be full in the hunger bar and have 12 saturation points. But if I had just waited a bit longer for me to be down to 5.5 legs, then I can eat 2 rabbit stew, which would give me 20 points in saturation, a full bar's worth. The rest of the items in this tier are very similar. They all have the exact same stats as each other, being 3 legs, 6 points, and 7.2 saturation, but of course, none of them stack. Beetroot soup requires 6 beetroot, but mushroom stew only requires 1 brown mushroom and 1 red mushroom, so it's much easier to craft. And suspicious stew is crafted like mushroom stew, but you can use different flours to give it some sort of buff or debuff, so it actually has more uses than just being food. Next, we have C tier, in which we have the raw potato, which only gives half a leg or 1 point and 0.6 in saturation. Its stats are identical to the one next to it, which is dried kelp, except for the fact that dried kelp takes less time to eat. The regular eating animation for a food item is 1.61 seconds, and dried kelp is literally half of that, at 0.865 seconds. That's kind of the only reason why dried kelp is better. After that, we got beetroot, which has the same hunger stats at half a leg, 1 point, but its saturation is 1.2, double that of the previous 2 entries. Then we have cookies. All of these foods in this tier are foods I really would not recommend eating long term, as you will run out of them really quickly, as the footage in the background will show you. But cookies at least have a better hunger stat at 1 leg, 2 points, but they have a worse saturation stat at 0.4. The upside to crafting cookies is that it just requires 2 wheat and 1 cocoa beans to craft 8 of them, but cocoa beans are really only found in the jungle biome, which according to this chart, the percentage of time you will spawn near a jungle is about 7% of the time, so you having access to cocoa beans is quite questionable. Now the next 2 entries basically have the same stats as cookies berries do, but because they can be planted, of course they're going to be higher on this list. Sweet berries are also only a food source that can be found in a specific biome. This biome is the taiga, which according to the chart at least has a higher percentage chance of you spawning near at 12%, whereas the glowberries, they spawn underground in one of the cave biomes called the lush caves, and these can appear more often because they're underground. Finally, we have come to B tier, and to start things off, we got melon slices. Now we're finally getting into the style of foods that would probably make up a lot of the mid-game, as their stats aren't that great, but they're also pretty reasonable when it comes to the ratios. Melon slices give 1 leg, 2 points, and 1.2 saturation. Besides its low stats, it's also only able to be found in the jungle, hence why it's at the bottom of this tier. Next we have apples, which actually has double the stats of melon slices with 2 legs, 4 points, and 2.4 saturation. So it's better to eat these because you'll have to eat less of them, plus getting them naturally is kind of rare as they drop from leaf blocks off of oak trees, but you can also get them from farmer villagers. Carrots, on the other hand, are a little bit worse in stats than apples, but actually have a better ratio, and of course can be found in most villages. They give 1.5 legs, 3 points, and 3.6 saturation. So if you were to start eating them at 5.5 legs down, you could eat 4 of them, which would give you 14.4 saturation. Which is interesting because a golden carrot gives you double the hunger of a regular carrot, with the same saturation level as 4 of them? So there is some logic to these numbers, it's just not really great logic. Next we have the honey bottle, which comes in at a whopping 3 legs, or 6 points, but they have quite a small saturation, being only 1.2. There's also the downside that you need a bottle to get it, and you need a beehive as well, but once you get that stuff, it's pretty easy to get, and also easy to set up an automatic farm for it. Plus, it doesn't stack to 64 like other food items, it just stacks to 16. But there are upsides to it. You can use it as an alternative way to craft sugar. If you are poisoned, you can drink it to get rid of that, and you can drink honey even if your hunger bar is full. So technically, yeah, it's got pretty low saturation level, but it doesn't matter as long as you have the supply. You can keep drinking it until your saturation bar is filled completely. It just might take a while. After that, we probably have one of the best items in the game, the enchanted golden apple. This item has the same hunger saturation level as a regular apple, but it gives you 6 extra golden hearts and grants you a whole bunch of buffs. It basically turns you into a super soldier. So why is this item so low on the totem pole? Well, the problem with this superpowered item is you cannot craft it. You can only loot it from chests and structures, and even then, it's still quite rare. Out of all the structures that have normal chests and not vaults like in the trial chamber, the highest chance you have at finding these bad boys is an 8.4% chance in an ancient city. And last but not least, we have another great food item, the chorus fruit, which is identical in stats to the apple, but you can continuously eat it even if your hunger bar is full. Out of all the items that you can eat even with a full hunger bar, this is the easiest one to grow and craft that has the best stats. The only problem is, to find the chorus plant, you have to travel to the End Islands, which involves a whole process of beating the entire game. So unless you are a world record speedrunner, it could take the average player hours to be able to obtain just one chorus fruit. And I think like only 10% of all Minecraft players ever make it to the end, so it's just not likely most people are going to be adding this to their diet anytime soon. Next we have A tier, where most of the cooked meats and fish are. Basically this tier is a lot of mid-game items that are slightly better than the ones from the previous tier. Each of the cooked food is ranked by stats mainly, but bread is actually at the top of this tier, even though its stats aren't better than some of these other items, because it comes from wheat, which is grown from wheat seeds. It is a lot easier to get a bunch of it pretty quick, as opposed to the cooked meats, as they require you to breed animals to increase their numbers before you attack them for their meat. And finally, we come to the last 6 items, the final tier, the tier of the gods. At the bottom, we have pumpkin pie, which has always been a great staple in the game. To be honest, this would actually be the best food, except for the fact that it has a horrible hunger saturation ratio. 4 legs, or 8 points, and only 4.8 saturation? Oh, give me a break. But it is quite high on the list for a few other reasons. First off, to craft it, you need 3 resources, pumpkins, eggs, and sugar, which is super easy to find even if you're just walking around, and you could also craft it in your inventory. Its ratio isn't that great, but the next 2 items ratios are pretty awesome. Steak and cooked pork chop have the same hunger value as pumpkin pie, but their saturation is a whopping 12.8. Obviously pork is higher than steak because it's much more efficient to breed pigs with beetroot, which barely has any other good uses, than to breed cows with wheat, which can be used to make bread or packed mud. And now we come to the final 3. I bet you won't guess who's at the top. Number 3 is the golden apple. Of course, it is a great item. It's the little brother of the enchanted golden apple, but it's at least craftable, giving some buffs and 2 extra hearts. But it is quite quite expensive to craft, as it takes an apple and 8 gold ingots. What is cheaper to make is the number 2 spot, the golden carrot. For this, all you need is a carrot and 8 gold nuggets, which is really cheap. And of course, if you haven't already guessed by the process of elimination, the winner of today's video and the best food in all of Minecraft history is the baked potato. Okay, before you all bite my head off, hear me out. Let me explain. Baked potatoes give 2.5 legs or 5 points with 6 saturation. Let's say you eat 3 of them, which you could if you were down 5.5 legs. You would have full hunger and your saturation would be at 18, 2 points shy of full. Golden carrots have a much higher saturation at 14.4 and 3 legs, or 6 hunger points. So if you ate 2 of them, you could easily get a full hunger and full saturation. The only problem is that the saturation that you've gained from the second carrot is mostly wasted. I know a lot of people might not care about that or think that I'm just overreacting, but if I'm playing a game and I have a health potion that heals 10 points, but I've only lost 4, is it really a wise decision to drink that potion? Of course not. It's really wasteful. That's the thing about eating the second carrot. You actually waste 60% of it. Now, everyone has their own opinions on that. I'm just more talking about during the time before you set up your gold farm, where you just get insane amounts of gold, or have a large villager set up and a bunch of emeralds to buy a bunch of golden carrots. I still think that with baked potatoes, you get a lot more bang for your buck. Not only can you grow them infinitely, each harvest will give you 2 to 5 of them, and all you need to do is cook them in a furnace, smoker, or campfire. It's just a much cheaper option than all the other stuff at the top of this tier list, while also having one of the best hunger saturation ratios, and also having a large enough hunger value so that you don't have to sit and eat so many of them when you get hungry. So that's my take on food in Minecraft. Food has always had very confusing stats. Some simple foods are really good, while some complex foods are not as good. The values of them don't really add up properly and give arbitrary numbers. If anything, I hope Mojang makes one of the new big updates centered around changing the way food works in Minecraft, giving better values, making more golden variants, and just adding in some new items in general. That would be really nice. But with all that being said, this is the end of the video. If you like what you watch, click that like button, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. See you guys in the next video.